Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Roscoe here with another DC University episode. Today, by request, I'm going to explain in depth how the EOG works, specifically generating supercharge, like from a resto perspective. A lot of people, I think, overlook this aspect of EOG. It's certainly still is part of the end game meta for healers as far as what they can do for support role for the group beyond healing. So if you look here in the description for EOG, show y'all. So for the tanks and healers, whenever you pop supercharge, it will restore, if you stand in the big green circle, it's going to restore 2, 3, or 6% health depending on the amount of supercharge cost that you've just used. So if it's 2500, it's 2%, 5k is 3%, 10k is 6%, and that's for health. It will also restore your supercharge. Okay, it's 0.5%, 1%, or 3%. Okay, so if you do the math at 0.5% supercharge per second. Now that's 0.5% of the absolute grand total. So if you've got Scrap of the Soul Cloak, it will increase your total amount of supercharge up to what is it? 12,000, I think is what it goes. It goes from 10 to 12. So you want to have, if you're going to do EOG build for resto, you also want to have Scrap of the Soul Cloak. I mean, it decreases the cooldowns, it increases the amount of return you get, and it also, and most importantly, increases the capacity of your total supercharge. So you would have something like the EOG, Scrap, and you'd also have, you could have Purple Healing Ray, Page of Destiny, and if you wanted to take transformation away, you could do Purified Pages, which is excellent. But if you didn't and you were just doing straight supercharge, you'd have EOG, must have Scrap. Okay, then you're also going to need the Ultimate Head Mod, which is going to give you 15% supercharge back, and then you're also going to want your ally Flash. You're going to want him equipped with the Walk It Off ability. It's also going to give you 15% supercharge return, and that's 15% total, not the amount that you've used, but the actual like grand total amount that you could have. So if you do the math, 15% plus 15% plus another 7% from the scrap, you're at 37% of the 12,000 total supercharge you can have. So you're above, you're at like let's say 4,000 and maybe 100 supercharge you're going to get returned to you anytime you use a supercharge. So if you use a 2,500 supercharge, you're actually going to gain supercharge. So you just used 2,500, but you gained 4,100 back. So it comes to a net positive. And so part of what healers will do, and even tanks, you know, if they're feeding supercharge to the group, they will stack 2,500 supercharges and use those to generate the amount to get to the 10k. Use the 10k, which will give, you know, 6% back, you know, and then just basically keep going. So I'm just going to show you right now. If you see on the upper left hand corner, you can see my supercharge is like maybe a little under halfway, and make sure I get into combat. So I'm in combat. All right, okay, now I pop. Okay, and just to let y'all know, if you're wondering where to get supercharges that are 2,500, Pheromone Bloom, which is one of your iconics, is a really good one. That one's a 2,500. The other ones that a lot of people don't know about are in the movement tree. Most of your movement trees are going to have at least one, if not two. Okay, I'm skimming, so I've got dust off. I think flying also has dust off, but then also gale. Gale is another one. It's a 2500 that you can use. Use these not necessarily for what they do for the group or for you, but more so because they're cheap supercharges and they're going to generate. You're going to end up getting more. So I've got those, so I'll pop Pheromone Bloom first, and if you watch my supercharge, so there's the green circle, and then you'll see how now it's gone up. I've just spent some, but now it's become a net gain. Okay, so I'm still in combat. Okay, I'm going to use another supercharge. This is Dust Off. So I just unclick that, see, and then it'll go up even more. Now it didn't go up quite so much just because the Dust Off one, because I was off the ground. Okay, then look, I'll do it again. Pheromone Bloom, back at it. Okay, I'll use, and it just keeps going up. Now I'm going to use the Gale one. There we go, and it just keeps going up. And you see how the way the cooldowns work. I could just kind of keep going at it, like just. And I'll see that so there's Gale again, and you see how like immediately boom, you get a big chunk of it back. And the Dust Off one is a little, I don't think it's working as well because technically I'm not in the circle when it kicks me up in the air and everything, but Pheromone Bloom does, and you can see how quickly I'm generating this. And at the same time, the group's also getting supercharged too. They're getting 5%, 3% each second they stand in the circle. So here's another one. And just by spending the supercharge the entire time, I'm gaining it. It's filling up, and that's probably about one of the fastest ways to fill it up. Now I'll go to full, and then I'll pop a 5k and show you like the 5k. Basically, you will end up losing, like, I think like maybe it's a 900, maybe less than that total amount of supercharge. So if you think about it, like, you can continually pop 5 if you've got full supercharge and all you do is pop 5Ks. You can continually do that over and over and over again until you're drained. But it would take a real long time because you're basically only spending 800 supercharge per 5K. So you could get like 10 5Ks off, 12 5Ks off in a row before you're depleted, and you would have to go back to doing the 2500s, or you would have to go back to using an ability like a supercharge generator, and all the while too, if anybody's in here in the green circle, they're also getting heals. Like any heal they're getting, it's going to be shared, and they get healed for the total amount of the healing that happens while people are in the circle. So it gets to generate a lot. So there's a 5K, and you see, and I could just immediately pop another one, and then another one. So you can see how, like, you can essentially, like, if you pick the right supercharges, like some healer builds, like I'm nature, so we don't actually have a viable healing 10k. All we've got are chaotic growth, which is, it's an attack ability, but it is a 10k. But as far as healing abilities that are supercharges, were limited, but it's all right because I've got Krypton ability and stuff. But you can see how I've been popping supercharges this entire time, and I haven't even really gone below half. Now if you notice, if I've used one while one is going on, okay, let me see, I'll do the dust off, and I get the immediate return right away. But then as I'm standing in here, it's going up, right? Now if I go Pheromone Bloom, I get the immediate return. Okay, now watch, I'll use Gale. I get the immediate return, but it's not going up anymore because they don't, the circles don't stack. You can only do basically one at a time. So if you use one, you gotta wait for that to end before you go to the next one. So if I go dust off, I have to wait for it to end and see how it's climbing. There it goes. Okay, now Pheromone Bloom, wait for it to end, and Gale, and then, so yeah, that would be how you would do that. And then that's a 5k, and you see it goes up more, but it doesn't refill. It doesn't go completely up to where it was before. So 5k is a deficit, 10k is a deficit, but the 2500 is a net gain. And then just for out of curiosity's sake, let's see how many 5ks I can actually do on a full supercharge bar. Here, we'll do, this one's a 5. So there's actually a healing one I can use. And then so do these 3 5s. Do this one too, just out of curiosity. So get into combat. So if you see I've got actually have a supercharge parser, so it'll show you what supercharge I'm benefiting with, and you see how those the supercharges, it generates everything, kind of generates supercharge. So if you ever want to know, have something like this where it'll show you on your combat log what generates supercharge and how much, I made an entire tab just onto itself, just supercharge only, so that I could really closely track it. But you just go into your, you go to options, settings, tab over to the chat options, okay, and then chat, you would do add new tab, and it'll give you a tab that is basically the default settings. Then you'd go into excuse me, you'd go into the edit one. So you go to let's say combat purser, no, supercharge. So to edit, and then make sure everything's unchecked. Message of the day or broadcast, you can keep those if you want, but just make sure that you've got supercharge in, supercharge out. And I do the damage summary just so I know at every 10-second interval, or however long the interval is. So I have an idea where it stops and starts. So I could say, okay, in this rotation, and this amount of, 10 seconds, I can generate this amount of supercharge, now. And that's just a good way to keep track of things. Now, okay, so we're gonna do nothing but 5Ks and see what we get. So 5K, do that one. And you can see how it's the frail death visage gives me 1900 supercharge back, 131 each second. Okay, that's from the EOG. So that's 3 I'm done so far. That's 4. Five. 6. 7. 8. So there we go. I got 7 5Ks off in a row consecutively without doing anything else before I had to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to do something to generate more. So that's pretty beefy. And then you think about like what you've just given the raid group, so the raid group also is going to get 131 supercharge as long as they're standing in that circle. 131 supercharge per second. Okay, so that's 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 supercharge, or 6 seconds of 131. So 600 times 3 is 780, 786 supercharge you just give back every time you do that. And then you multiply that times 5 or 7 was what it was. You've 49 over 5K. You're looking at like maybe even closer to 5,500 supercharge that you've given the raid, as long as they're standing in the circle and that's not doing anything else, And I could have done 10Ks too, and like if I'd done 10K, they're gonna get even more back. In fact, let's see. I'll show you how much they can get back. So if you, a lot of times healers will also use like Hope Weave is a really good one, because that one's a supercharge generator. You could use Hope Weave and do healing and damage at the same time. So let's say we did Hope Weave for this one, and then we did supercharge generator, and we'll do that's a 10K I'm going to use. So do 10K, and then we'll say, okay, I'm going to do here's a 2,500, and another 2,500 Pheromone Bloom. Okay. So Pheromone Bloom's like nice little self-heal. It's good for tanks, for like a nice cooldown. Here, we'll do that. Okay. So, supercharge generator. And the thing about the Hope Weave, it's going to generate the supercharge off the first, the most amount of supercharge off the first use, like that. If you do the combo, it'll generate more, but as you can see, the largest amount comes from the first use. Okay, so here's our 10K. And you see how much I get back. 1500, 1900 is 2000. So I get over 4,000 back in 395 each second. That's and the group's going to get that too. So that's where that really makes a big difference, you know. And if you're like lightning or water, but lightning really has any of the healing powers where you're going to have a group shield as your 10k, like the benefits really start to add up. You know, you're going to shield everybody, they're all going to get a bunch of supercharge back, and you can basically just quickly get right back up to 10k by doing your 2500s, and you know, you're just feeding them supercharge the entire time, and yourself, like there's another supercharge, you know, all this they're getting as well, as far as the 65 per second for the 2500s, you know. So look, here's another 10k, boom, now they're getting the 395, okay. And then you can see like just how much my supercharge is refilling, and see, it just goes right back up. By using this. And so here we go, I'm going to do 10k again. And then right back to my 2500s, and there you go. I hope this kind of like explains it a little more clearly. It kind of gives you all an idea just like how awesome this really is for the group, and you know, the potential amount of damage that can be put out because of this, and the potential amount of healing. It's really cool. It takes some practice, as far as like knowing when to use it, how to feed the group. You know, like you're definitely going to want to do this like on boss fights, you know, when you do the pull and everybody's stacked up and they're all popping cooldowns. You know, there's going to be so much damage mitigation going on with Constantines and everything. It's kind of like there's just not going to be much healing needed. So, you know, but there will be a demand for supercharge, because, you know, the more that you can give the group, the more they're going to be able to pop theirs back to back to back. You know, people are going to be using Neo Venom like crazy, you know, which are 5Ks, but it's got a short cooldown. Word of Power is another one. It's got a really short cooldown. The Electric Circuit Breaker, you know, Rage's Berserk. There's just so many of them, you know, that are really good. And if you can give the group supercharge and feed it to them, you're gonna be their favorite. So like I said, I hope this helps. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe if you got any questions, and I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you so much.